A surgeon allowed his teenage daughter to drill a hole in a patient's skull. Companies in China get the day off of work because of a new video game release. And a legendary rock band faked a farewell tour to sell more tickets. These are the weird stories for Tuesday on Weird AF News, the only daily weird news podcast in the universe. An Austrian surgeon let his teenage daughter drill a hole into a patient's skull. Well, it turns out that the Austrians consider Take Your Daughter to Work Day to be a very serious feat. They allow them to actually participate. I think I covered a story once in the U.S. where a doctor allowed the janitor to give anesthesia to a patient. Something like that. Anyone remember that story? I'll have to dig that up. I have to say, there's some professions that bring your daughter to work day. It's just not a good idea. Like surgeons, pilots, even like a skydive instructor, I would say. Don't let your kids run that session. My stepdad never took me to work, but he did allow me to take the wheel once in a while after he had too many nips. You know what I'm saying? Take the wheel, kid. You got it, boy. Stay between the lines. You can do it. All right, enough shenanigans. Let's get into the story and learn about this Austrian surgeon who let his daughter drill a hole into a patient's head. Following a forest-related accident, we have a 33-year-old patient that was flown by air to the Graz University Hospital, Styria, southeastern Austria. He had serious head injuries. He needed emergency surgery, but the doctor allegedly allowed his 13-year-old daughter to take part in operating on the patient. The media is reporting that she even drilled a hole into the patient's skull. People say that children shouldn't do surgeries, but they got them small hands, man. Those small hands are good for delicate surgeries and such. It turns out miraculously the patient's okay. Lived, is unable to work, but lived. Now, this all took place at the beginning of the year, and then a couple of months ago, an anonymous complaint was lodged to the public prosecutor's office about these allegations. It then took until July for the alleged victim to be informed by the police. So the person, the victim, the man whose head was operated on by a 13-year-old, I shouldn't say operated on, but a hole was drilled. The beginning of the operations were conducted, it seems, by a 13-year-old. He didn't even know because he was under, obviously, and then it came out during this alleged prosecutor's office report. It actually says the victim didn't learn about the case until it was in the media, and then later was told by authorities that he was a witness in an investigation. I'm a witness. Yeah, no, I was out for it. I'm the victim of the incident is what's going on here. All right, it says here the surgeon and one other employee, a specialist who was present during the operation, have been let go by the hospital. That seems suitable for now. Probably should lose their license as well. How did you lose your medical license, Air Doctor? Well, it's a very funny story, actually. I was just trying to spend more time with my family. Now, for this article, they interviewed a trauma surgery specialist named Manfred Bogner. Manfred says, yes, I don't understand it. How anyone could allow the child to perform the surgery under such circumstances. An operating theater belongs to people who have a job to do, and no one else. A child should not be given a drill and allowed to drill away at the bone of a seriously injured person. I love it. A child should not be given a drill and be allowed to drill away at the bone of an injured person. Yes, yes. Well said. Well, the child learned a lot, and maybe she's going to embark on a new career. So good for her. And she's going to have just a really interesting show and tell from her day with Dad. I'm going to do a lobotomy for the class. Watch this. A very popular Chinese role-playing video game was released, and many employees got the day off to game. How lovely. I thought there was a gaming curfew in China. Although that might be just for the children, the gaming curfew. Let's learn a little bit about this video game. It must be a big one. It's called Black Myth Wukong. And it's a role-playing game that was just released globally about a week ago. It's China's first high-budget, domestically produced game. After 6.5 years of development, the game saw a very impressive start, with over 1.5 million online users playing simultaneously on the Steam platform within the first 40 minutes of the game's release. Wow, guys, I think it's more popular than Mario Brothers at this point, right? Black Myth Wukong is an action role-playing game based on the classic Chinese novel Journey to the West. Now, I did a little research about this because I thought this was quite strange that they would give employees the day off to play this game. But the significance of this story is huge. Sun Wukong and the Journey to the West is the story that every child in China grows up watching, reading about, listening to. And this is apparently a very faithful adaptation of the story. So it's a big deal for Chinese culture and Chinese nationalism, this video game. And that's why companies are giving their employees time off, which I am all for. Anytime a Chinese company is giving their employees time off, you know, that's a good thing because they work about 187 hours a week, which is weird because I don't even know if there's 187 hours in a week. You know, so it's like, hey, you know, so right now there's a bunch of 8-year-olds. Instead of having to put together iPhones, they get to play that game for a few hours and get some relief. Now, in addition to being a cultural success for China, the game publisher sold almost 100 million units before it was even released. In addition to suspending work, the game publisher Gamera Game gifted each employee a digital deluxe version of Black Myth Wukong so they could enjoy the game without any hassles. The producers have also released a guide for a better gaming experience in response to the overwhelming support for Black Myth Wukong. The producer Feng Ji advised players to enjoy the game in moderation and to make sure that you take breaks. The producer said, quote, "Play slowly. Don't rush to complete the levels. After all, there is no other better choice for the time being." There is no other better choice for the time being. Strange quote. Well, they give a damn over there about your video game intake. Strange what they care about and what they don't care about. Now, I, for one, would like to see a little bit of this behavior in the U.S. We should get a couple of days off after the release of a nice game. I didn't get any time off when Grand Theft Auto came out, whenever the new one came out. Shoot, when I was living in Boston, I didn't even get a day off if there was a blizzard. Yeah, my boss was never like, you can't, don't bother coming in, it's a blizzard. No, I had to get in my car and make it work, man. And it was wicked hard. It was wicked hard to drive in the snow. I don't know if you know that. You heard of black ice? Wicked piss of that black ice, I'm telling you. Now, I think the most popular game in the U.S. is Call of Duty. So that when the next Call of Duty that comes out, we should get a holiday for that. Shoot, if it was up to me, we would have the Monday following the opening weekend of the NFL season. That should be a national holiday that we all get off. Anybody agree with me? 646-450-2012. Where my football fans at?
This episode is brought to you by Experian. Are you paying for subscriptions you don't use but can't find the time or energy to cancel them? Experian could cancel unwanted subscriptions for you, saving you an average of $270 per year and plenty of time. Download the Experian app. Results will vary. Not all subscriptions are eligible. Savings are not guaranteed. Paid membership with connected payment account required.
A rock band faked their farewell tour in order to sell more tickets. We have a legendary rock band called Deep Purple. Have you heard of Deep Purple? They're known for such songs as Smoke on the Water. Very famous guitar riff in that one. Ow, 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 ow. They had some other hits, I think. I don't know any other songs but that one. Deep Purple has concert dates apparently booked out through 2026, which is good news for fans of this legendary rock band. Good news, that is, unless you shelled out a few extra bucks for the band's, quote, long goodbye tour. That was their tour that took place in 2017, which was at that time supposed to be a farewell tour. And now we know why the long goodbye was not really a goodbye at all. And maybe the goodbye wasn't really emphasized enough because the lead singer Ian Gillan said in an interview that the band actually has no intention to stop touring. This is very common with bands, though. I'm not sure if you're all aware of this, but Ozzy's been doing farewell tours since like 1992. How many goodbye tours has Elton John been a part of? I mean, and in Kiss as well. So many going back decades. It seems like they always have a farewell tour. I'm sure there's some of you out there listening to this podcast right now that have been to a couple of The Who farewell tours, yeah? And you're probably thinking, you're not going to get fooled again, you know what I mean? I say all that to say that it's not really fair to single this band out when it's such a common trick for bands to sell more tickets. You can make a career out of saying goodbye, apparently. Maybe I'll do a farewell podcast tomorrow, but then I'll be podcasting back in the closet the next day too. But maybe I'll get more downloads if I do a farewell podcast. I don't know. Got to maybe look into that. This trickery has been known to work, man. There was that old mattress store trick. Yeah, the going out of business sale. Yeah, you've been going out of business for 10 years, bro. How many going out of business sales are you going to have? I mean, now Deep Purple's booked through the end of 2026, and they say they have some projects in the works, so there's going to be more tours in the future. Deep Purple first began performing in 1968, so it's an older band. So, in their defense, they're so old that every day could be a farewell day. So, old bands, man, they got to do what they got to do. It's like it's a farewell tour until they're like, oh shoot, we're all out of money. We got to get back on the farewell tour again. I love seeing the old bands that I enjoyed as a kid. You see them for very cheap, man. You could go see these bands that you enjoyed as a child for super cheap when you're an adult, like $35. For $50, you can do the meet and greet. For $75, you could put a band member in your car and drive them wherever you want. Bring them home, have them babysit your kid. They need the money, man. And I'm all for it, man. I support the old artists. Like I saw New Edition, and in general, they're in pretty decent shape, but there's a guy named Bobby Brown who just can't seem to keep it together, and so, I'm there to support Bobby, and I gotta tell you something, I got very nervous when Bobby decided to walk up on some high stairs. It was like watching your grandpa try and skateboard. You're like, oh, easy, Bobby, get down from the stairs there, pal. Don't do any dance moves up there, Bobby. Don't go humping around at those high heights, Bobby. Take it easy now. And a hilarious aspect of it was before the concert started, they flashed an advertisement for Bobby Brown's tea and coffee company because he's got a side hustle. Because they're all hurting for money, man. It's just, so you got to support these people. It's really a funny dynamic overall because the band is old. They don't dance anymore because of the gout. They've gone through like 3 divorces, each of them, and they battled alcoholism. They're just barely hanging on up there. And the crowd's out of shape, too. We're out of shape. Back in the day, the band would throw an object into the crowd, like maybe a drumstick, and we'd all fight over it when we were young. Well, now, when you're old, you can actually hear the drumstick hit the floor. Ting, 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 ting. And then it sits there for a minute because not all of us can bend at the waist in the crowd. And then we're exhausted, When the band doesn't do a curtain call, we're like satisfied with that. We're like, yeah, you don't need to come out. Yeah. That's fine. This is a good time to end it. It's like 9 p.m. Yeah, we got to get home and feed the cat. Right, honey? Hello, my friends, and thank you for joining me for this episode of Weird AF News. I couldn't have done it without ya. Let's give some thanks and praise. A couple of people joined the Patreon, so I just want to give them some love. Pamela P. joined the Patreon, so we want to give a shout out to the lovely Pamela P. for stepping up her generosity and joining the Patreon, showing the ultimate support for this one-man podcast that records in a closet. So thank you, Pamela. In addition to Pamela, Jason also joined the Patreon, so there's no last name for the Jason. We just want to say we got love for Jason. Shout out to Jason for joining the Patreon. Appreciate it, bro. Please enjoy the extra content that is inside the Patreon. I put in various weird-related media every week. I keep that going. I keep pumping the stuff in there. I try to make it entertaining in there, and there's some personal stuff regarding my life and what I'm doing in there as well. All kinds of stuff that isn't appropriate, really, for the audio podcast goes in there, too. So crazy videos or images that I see that are very weird and funny and bizarre, they go into the Patreon. And of course, we have the Fantasy Football League, and I believe there's still one slot open for a team owner. Anybody who's a member of the Patreon would like to snag that. There's a link inside the last fantasy football related post that's inside the Patreon. So if you're a member, just click on that and just add your email address and sign up for the league. It doesn't cost anything extra, and I'll be giving out some cool prizes. If you can somehow beat Jonesy at fantasy football, I'll get you something. Better believe it. Anyways, check out the Patreon, patreon.com/weirdafnews if you'd like to get involved in that. If you want to send me any stories that you think are appropriate for the show, send a link to my email, funnyjones@gmail.com, or my Instagram @funnyjones. Keep it real, and good luck with your life, man.